All right. Good morning. My name is Dean Alley. I am a student here at Trinity. Um, I reside in Camden, North Carolina, about 18 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, or Outer Banks, or OBX they call it, and probably 45 um, minutes to Virginia Beach. So um, mainly the coastal part of Northeast North Carolina is where I live. Been married for about 34 years. I say about because October will be 34. And I have two beautiful daughters, and I have two beautiful granddaughters. I work for the Coast Guard as an IT systems owner. I manage um, all of the systems and programs, software, um, the laptops, all of the peripherals. I think I've got close to 500 laptops, and these laptops are um, all over the world, all over the United States, contiguous up in Alaska, Puerto Rico, and uh, Hawaii, and many others. And I basically write the software programs for the Coast Guard, and I support the Coast Guard in managing the software. Um, and I'm hoping to retire in 6 years and work full time in the ministry. But I attend Harmony Baptist Church here in Camden, North Carolina. I'm privileged to serve as the treasurer, the men's Bible teacher, and I preach occasionally. Last night I taught on Acts 11 and talking about real Christianity and the real Jesus, and had a really good crowd last night. So praise God for that. And obviously, um, it went well. See, I'm in the process of ordination. I know that the pastor's developing a board of North Carolina pastors and Virginia pastors, and he's working on that. So that's probably very soon. So um, why I went to Trinity? Well, I know I've got ATS on right here, but Andersonville, but um, my daughter was going to East Carolina. She was getting her master's in nursing, and I was a little slack. I just never had time. I couldn't. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the time. My schedule. When I had the kids here and all of life stuff that gets in the way, I didn't have the opportunity to go to school. Now the kids are grown. They're gone. I've got two dogs and a cat, um, and my wife. Um, she works, and I work from home quite a bit, so I had plenty of time to work on um, this degree stuff, as Dr. Selby told me when I signed up for dual enrollment. So I want to thank Dr. Hunter. I want to thank Dr. Pritchett, Dr. Selby, Dr. Tucker, Andy, and all the staff from the technical side to the registrar, everybody that's helped me along this journey. And I put a lot of effort and a lot of time because I've had a lot of time. I can get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can work on paperwork for 10 hours or a project or something. So it's pretty much I've had a lot of time. So and then you had COVID, and then everybody was forced to work at home. Gave me more opportunity to study even more. Um, I have amassed, as Dr. Pritchard would tell you, books and more books. I had to go get more bookcases, um, just in terms of my studies, and it continues to grow. So I can say now that I'm kind of a theology nerd, and probably it's fair to say uh, philosophy. I've been spending a lot of time in Dr. Bruce Gore's online program, and I've been listening and studying a little bit of philosophy, and so theology, philosophy has kind of been my niche. It never was until I started going to Trinity. Trinity has really opened up my ability to see other things from different paradigms. So let's talk about let me get out of this. This is the summary. I don't know why I started there. So here it is. Authentic leadership thesis. This is our RW 721 um, perspective and development. Perspective, yeah. Did I say that right? Prospectus and development and hearing. So again, my name is Dean Snellinelli. Uh, let's have a cup of coffee together and talk about this this thesis, or the title is authentic leadership, and it kind of is a kind of a foundational sub to my dissertation, which talks about leadership and uh, both Christian and secular leadership. And this is important because it's authentic leadership is extremely important, as many folks know. One other thing I should say before we start, um, I have prior to this life as a Coast Guard software guy, prior to that I served um, with a international and U.S. and international company corporation, and I was a manager of or supervisor or district manager, whatever, or regional, whatever you want to call me. And I've managed many states of operations, um, big cities, all through. Just it was a lot of work, but I'd average probably around 1,000 employees and managers and department heads, all that for probably 16 years. So I've spent a lot of time. I've seen things in leadership that it's just there's been some good stuff and there's been some terrible stuff. Especially when you get up into the Balt Wash market, the Richmond Petersburg market, and the Norfolk markets. Yeah, you see things that you never thought you would see, but and your leadership is challenged more so than any other job I've ever had. But you know it's all about working through your people to get the results you want. So um, I've been in leadership a long time. I have a team now at the Coast Guard. I left that world because of just too many hours. I was working way too many hours than I need to. This job gives me an opportunity to have the weekends off, so that's a plus. Plus, you know, I like software and IT, and got a little background there with that. So yeah. So grab a cup of coffee. As I just introduced myself, I'm drinking. You could probably see Harley Davidson. I ride a 2020 Harley Davidson. It's called a Shriner. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a Shriner uh, bike, about 950 pounds. Got a 114 on it. It's pretty quick. Um, and you could probably see in the background here, this is my old unit when I was in the Army. That's Eddie. I know that's a skull and it's ugly looking, but actually I was in a unit. Basically our mascot was Elvis. Elvis lives. We told everybody Elvis lives. So that's a poster. And then up here, see if I get there. Right there is a Hasbro toy company of our unit, of the Apache helicopter program. So those are just, so if you see those in the background, that's kind of what it is. You see my leather jacket right there and stuff. So, anyways, I enjoy the freedom of riding, um, and exhilarating. But it's just a kind of a hobby of mine. So my new hobby is theology, philosophy, and motorcycle study. A lot of Bible study, and continue to learn. I'm kind of that lifetime learner, um, and I got to be honest with you. This is not the end for me. I may sign up for some more classes. I'm kind of that way. So, anyways, without further ado, grab your coffee. Let's talk about authentic leadership, shall we? All right. Whoops. All right. So, authentic leadership. There's three levels that I'll start with. Each. This is the research concern of the chapter. So, number one, the purpose of the study. is to examine the core foundation of the subtopics again for my dissertation. Um, and my goal is to evaluate this term, authentic leadership. And it may come to be a surprise to you that uh, the first thing you recognize about authentic leadership is it's not always synonymous, or the same with the with being a leader. So just because you say authentic leadership, it doesn't mean it's the same as being an actual leader. You've heard that term before. I'm sure you've heard it. Um, some people are better in their job. Some people are made for that, and they, kind of are. Some say you're born that way, but actually, I think it's more of a you work that. It's kind of like a muscle. You keep working it, and continue to challenge yourself in authentic leadership. And by the way, when I worked for that company, that international company, I went to so many different um, programs, leadership. I mean, I went to a 18-week live-in college um, on leadership, and then I went into kind of the senior leadership levels and stuff. And I took a lot of courses, studied a lot of Stephen Covey, uh, Coos and Posner, and all those guys. So from my secular side, I had a lot of that background, and from a Christian side, this is where I'm learning um, what that means. So, um, and like my title is Christian leadership versus secular leadership, and then it's what's the dichotomy, what's the difference between the two, and um, then I break it down, and obviously my dissertation is kind of where I'm going with my research to try to understand what that is, because I have seen so many different leadership styles. Um, I think somebody best explained it to me once. We all have different leaders. If you have them, they come and go in your life. And somebody explained it. It's kind of like going down a slalom of skiing. You have the posts or the sticks, and you got to go through the sticks. Well, some leaders have a wide range to the stick, and you have some leaders that are very close to the stick of going down. So you got to learn to negotiate on whatever that leadership is. So it's a good analogy. So know that. So anyway, so let's talk about again. Uh, it is to it's a core foundational subtopic for my um, leadership. I mean my dissertation. So some guiding questions. The workplace typically um, works for leaders who provide the framework and employment um, for the set and goals, provides feedback on their performance. So, how often do you question whether or not the leader is genuine in their communication? And now, to be fair, there's some good leaders out there, um, but my research is trying to understand the delta between Christian and secular, and then how authentic is it? So it's kind of a sub break off that. So kind of fit real well. So, um, but have you ever questioned whether you're being told the truth or being fed some some fairy tale or spurious retort to just to appease you or the masses? You ever feel like that? So that's kind of a guiding question of, you know, again, do you feel like you're getting the right answer, and what should that look like? So, authentic leadership, let's see, is often contrasted with leadership theories and styles. On the exterior, authentic leadership appears to be easily defined. However, it's a complex of building the process that is tricky to characterize. So, among leadership scholars, there is no single accepted definition of authentic leadership. It's like anything else. Everybody wants to debate everything. Well, this is no different. They're going to debate it. Instead, multiple reports are written from different viewpoints and a different emphasis. So, um, tomato, all depends on who and what. Uh, Similar to religions. People choose certain things and rightly divide and view the Bible differently and view different denominations. So, you know, it's how you discern it and how you read it. And, and we're told not to judge anyway. So let's look at slide 3. Make sure I get there. Yeah, right there. Method. So, method of authentic leadership. This is my this rolls into my chapter 2 of my precedent uh, literature. So, interpretations can be recognized in 2 areas: the practical approach, which grew from real life samples and training and development literature. And number 2, theoretical approach, which is established on the findings of social science research. Both systems exciting insights into the complex process of authentic leadership. So that kind of kicks it off there. So the rational approach is prevalent today. People are interested in the fundamentals of this type of leadership. Notably, they want to know how to become authentic leaders. And I'll talk about the George approach a little bit. And basically, Mr. William George, he was a Harvard businessman. I think he had a master's. I think he got his doctorate. But he basically broke some characteristics down in authentic leadership. And I'll reference him and I will cite him correctly on the things that he brought forth. But he developed as an author and he's a professor in management practice at Harvard Business School. So the characteristics of authentic leadership. George says the essential qualities of authentic leadership and how individuals can develop these qualities to become authentic leaderships. Kind of what I said before. You'll say, well, that person's born a leader. Well, George is going to argue that you can develop these qualities over time. If you have good leadership, they emulate and you through your experiences, and this is kind of what George is talking about, or William George. So we'll talk about that, and authentic leadership. We'll take it from a theoretical approach. So authentic leadership is construct that focuses on leaders' authenticity of leadership. This concept is reasonably new theory in the leadership field. This thing is ever changing, just like anything else. People debate it. Different scholars, they'll weigh in, and it comes from their viewpoint, and they'll write on it. They'll put a book out on it. And for you, it's kind of like how can I say it? It's kind of eating fish and spitting the bones out. What you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. So the analogy there is just spitting the bones out after you read some of this stuff. But unlike many approaches, authentic leadership is a theory that's focused on genuine realness of leadership. The components of authentic leadership, this is appropriate to chapter 3, there's a guy named Walla and Associates conducted, and you'll see this when I upload my presentation, conducted a comprehensive review in literature. In their research, they identified 4 elements. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, internalized moral perspective. Number 3, balance process. And number 4, a rational transparency. Some other factors that influence that in other aspects, I would say psychological capabilities, moral reasoning, and critical life events influence the authentic leadership. And let me bring you to this. So this you'll see this in my paper I wrote, but essentially I wanted to bring this to your attention here. So positive psychological capabilities is where I'm at right here. Moral reasoning, critical life events. So these 3 boxes start to morph into self-awareness, internalized moral perspective, the balance processing, relational transparency, all points to authentic leadership. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Let's talk about the theory. Leadership theory works. The practical approach provides recommendations for how to be authentic and how to develop authentic leadership. For example, George focuses on 5 characteristics that develop the leader, uh, and he advocates that the leaders become more valued, value-entered, purposeful, rational, self-disciplined, and lastly, compassionate. So those are part of the theory that George comes up with. So some strengths, criticism, and application. And I expand on this quite in detail from my paper that I'll be uploading. All right. I hope I haven't lost anybody. All right. Strengths are in the early stages of improvement. Authentic leadership approaches several strengths. Number one, it fulfills an expressed need for trustworthy leadership in society. Authentic leadership fills the void and provides an answer to the people searching for good and sound leadership. You've always heard the term somebody say, he's a good leader. I like to work for him. Why do you like? Well, there's some other characteristics about this leader that you like. Um, Maybe they're more personable. Um, maybe they care more about your family and your quality of life. Maybe they take an interest in you. Um, there's many things that can quantify that. So number two, authentic leadership offers broad guidelines for individuals who want to become authentic leaders. The practical theoretical theory approaches points to what leaders should do to become an authentic leadership. And number three, like transformational and servant leadership, authentic leadership has an explicit moral dimension to it. You saw that when I talked about the dimensions here, which you would see in this table, slide 5. So, um, also, there's other 4 crucial positive psychological characteristics as confidence, hope, optimism, resilience, all have drawn into the field of positive psychology and positive organizational behavior. So that's another aspect. So I threw this together just to kind of, I'm citing the source right on the bottom, and authentic leadership characteristics. Okay. Um, so George sees this viewpoint as authentic leadership approaches these crucial features of authentic leadership. Collectively, these features provide a more realistic picture of what people need to do to become authentic leaders, to become an authentic leader in developing their own leadership. Ultimately, the authentic leadership is a lifelong development process formed and informed by the individual's life story. You talk about experience, right? If you take a guy that, I'll just give you an example. I deal with a lot of engineers. I have an engineering background. So, um, if you may or may not know this, but Huntsville, Alabama has per capita more PhDs than any other city in America. So there's a ton of PhD doctorates, and they are well qualified on paper, right? Well, most of them or a lot of them have to take jobs that just to pay the bills. So there's people that I know that are cleaning the bathrooms at McDonald's with their PhD. Why? Just what this piece says. Their individual life story and experience isn't there. Um, and when I was hiring, I would always focus on the experience side. Education is important. That education gives you the bandwidth and the capability to perform tasks, complete tasks, and it's very important. I think education is, but the experience side is very important. So, more experience, more ability to do the job and be more effective. But as you can see, I kind of hit. If I go on the outside wheel here, let me go here. Outside wheel. Passion, behavior. Use this. Passion, behavior, connectedness, consistency, compassion. Notice where they go. Passion goes to the purpose, purpose over to behavior, to values, relationships, connectedness. So all this turns into being an authentic leader. These are these are these are pieces that you have to develop to be an authentic leader. And these are some pretty big stuff here that has to be done. So let's talk about um, in my conclusion, the applied research. I would say uh, authentic leadership approaches that highlights these crucial features of authentic leadership you saw on the last slide. Collectively, these features provide realistic picture of what people need to do to become an authentic in their leadership. Ultimately, authentic leadership is a lifelong development. You've heard me say that more than once. Process is formed and informed by by the individual, and as a result, the leadership breaks down in both the public and private sector. Authentic leadership is evolving. Remember, it's always whenever there's a topic of difference, it'll be debated, and it's as I researched authentic leadership, it was just a vast chasm of information on authentic leadership. But ultimately, I'm saying um, this leadership is defined with translucent leadership, responsive to people's needs and values, and morally grounded. That's important. I worked for a boss once that was not moral. He had some deficiencies. I ended up leaving that organization because I didn't believe in what he was standing for. He was very much a tyrant, and I didn't like how he was. I think he was dating his wife for the second time. I don't know how many times they split up, but anyways, um, there was other things too to be there. So being responsive, being valued. I did a recent survey with my team, and I asked some questions. I think 10 questions. One of them was, does my belief system in a higher power, and does that bother you? No, everybody said no. Now, uh, they could have been lying. I don't know, but I was trying to understand that and try to gauge. And but they all enjoy working for me because I treat them like people. I truly do. I mean, we're all made in the likeness of Jesus, so who am I? I'm just the one that's privileged to lead them and give them the opportunity. And I always tell them, you'll retire with me if you stick around. Anyways, so implications. If we look at it, there is one recognized definition for authentic leadership. Again, this is just one. It could be conceptualized interpersonally, developmentally, and interpersonally. I don't know why I said that. Conceptual, interpersonally, and development. So though there's no one that's recognized, definitions vary in many cases. The theoretical the method here for authentic leadership emerges from social science literature, drawing from the fields of leadership, positive organizational uh, scholarship, ethics, research has four major components of authentic leadership: self-awareness, internalized moral perception, balanced processing, relational transparency. And then I would go on to say that research has have found that authentic leadership is influenced by a leader's positive psychological capabilities, moral reasoning, and critical life events. So I think if your compass is on track. I think if you have a very good um, psychological outlook and positive. And I think critical life events that you've learned along the way only makes you a better leader. The old saying is, what was it? Make whatever makes you, you be stronger from it. I don't know if I said it right. I probably hacked it up. So let's see. Let's get into the summary here. So finally, authentic leadership is relatively modern and changing area of research that holds a tremendous amount of promise. As much research is conducted, a better picture will occur about the actual nature of the process and assumptions and the principles that it contains. We have the Bible, and we know that you know a Christian by its fruits, and um, you know, God sets one up and he sets one down in terms of leadership. So I think he's in the know, or I shouldn't say in the know. He does set those individuals up, take them down. But I think that you have to have you first have to have um, a good perspective of who you are. You have to understand um, from a humble standpoint that you're just as much as a sinner. Now, if you're in a leadership role, you still have responsibilities, correct? Yeah. So you still have your leadership responsibilities. You are required to complete the tenets of your job. You have charges, but there's a way you can do it. You can do it with authentic leadership by caring, having a heart, being intentional. I think being interpersonable to an extent. Some will not want you to be personable with them. I got one guy. I do like a port starboard. Um, I have a guy in there at 6:30, a guy in there at 8 o'clock, and then a guy comes in about 10, and he kind of works in the evening to take care of um, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and some of the other areas that are further from Eastern Standard Time. And he's very closed off, and I have to really work on him to make him feel comfortable. Everybody else seems to be okay, but he is a little bit different. But I still love him. I think he does a great job, um, and I'm just trying to help him be better in his role and relatedness. So, but he's very qualified at what he does. Um, but yeah, so you have to have those qualities, an authentic leadership, um, and it's either you're going to have them in your Christian leadership, you can have them in um, your secular leadership. These two leadership buckets should both have the authentic leadership brand to them. You know, uh, secular. I'm not going to get into secular and Christian because I wrote a whole dissertation on it. But um, essentially, when you start thinking about authentic leadership, it can be whether you're Christian or non-Christian. You can still be authentic and have great. I say that because I was unchurched for many years. I had a moral compass, but um, you know, I'll give you an example. For instance, so York, PA, there was a store up there that was really far away from the rest of the district, and I had word that we're going to close the facility. So I went up the week before, and it was very hard for me to know that these people were out of a job. We were going to close the doors, and I couldn't say anything. You know, um, that bothered me, and it still bothers me. Obviously, I'm bringing it up, but we ended up closing two stores up there, and we put a lot of people out of work. And that's that. They're going to say business and all this other stuff. I know, and it's part of it. But authentic leadership. I think you have to continue to work it. You have to continue to improve yourself. Personally, for me, it's in prayer. It's in worship, in study. It's in deed. Um, I know we have some widows that I try to help out. I fix their computers. When you're born in 1940, you're not a computer person. So it's my pleasure to go over there and help these ladies that are widows. Or check the tire. I had to check the tire the other day for one of our widows. My pleasure. I don't have a problem doing that whatsoever. It's what we should be doing. But authentic leadership, again, it is relatively modern. It's been going on for a long time. It's a changing area of research. It continues to change. You have core components there, as we talked about here. And as you read my paper, you'll see a little bit more deeper as these subjects. And I just wanted to put a highlight to those. So, with that being said, I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed your coffee. I know I am. And you have a blessed day. Thank you for your time.